Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Ruth Walco.
Number 2.
My name is Ruth Walco.
Number 3.
My name is Ruth Walco.
Only one of these people is the real Ruth Walco, and is the only one sworn to tell the truth. Now, let's meet our panel. Co-star of Murder, She Wrote, Ron Mason. Syndicated newspaper columnist and reporter for Current Affairs, Cindy Adams. Four-time Super Bowl champion and MVP, Lynn Swan. And Emmy Award winner for the Golden Girls, Betty White. Here's the host of To Tell the Truth, Gordon Elliott.
Thank you, and welcome, and good morning, panel.
Good morning, Gordon.
Do you know, I was watching you just the other day, Betty. That has got to be one of the most well-written shows on television, Golden Girls, hasn't it?
Aren't they miracle workers? I don't know how they do it.
They come up every time with a great script.
Oh, they're the nicest group, and they work as a team so beautifully.
Have you ever thought of sitcom as a future for you, Lynn?
Yes, I have. Matter of fact, I actually read for a couple of TV parts in my life.
Really?
Yes, I read for a part as a football player.
A little bit different.
As a Golden Girl.
Yes. I wanted to be the Golden Boy, and Paul Horning already did that, but they told me it didn't look like a football player.
Isn't that, yeah? I don't know how they got that idea.
It's the truth. So I showed him my Super Bowl ring. I said, does this look like a high school graduation ring? He goes, no, it looks like a Super Bowl ring. And that was the end of the story.
You didn't get the part?
I didn't get the part.
Unbelievable.
I never watched it one time on TV, and it didn't last very long.
They needed you.
That's right.
You. Okay, let's get right to the story presented by our first team of challengers, all three of whom claim to be Ruth Walco. And here is her story. Please read along with me. I, Ruth Walco, was held hostage in my apartment for over 5 hours by a burglar. He held me at gunpoint, but I didn't panic. I began to talk to him. He asked for something to eat, and I gave him a heart-to-heart talk about getting into a new line of work. I told him he should be ashamed of himself. He finally surrendered to the police. Then I discovered he was a 3-time convicted burglar and was out on parole. As he was led away in handcuffs, he turned to me and said, "I'm sorry, Ruth." I felt sorry, too, for him. Maybe a little chicken soup and motherly advice will help to turn that boy around. Signed, Ruth Walco. And we'll find out more about this grandmother with chutzpah right after this. Welcome back to Tell the Truth. And panel, these three people all claim to be Ruth Walco, who was held hostage by a burglar. Let's start the questioning with Betty White.
Number 3, when you start, how long did it take you to get up the nerve to talk to him?
Well, I talked to him right away because he grabbed me by the throat and stuck his finger in, and I said, "You're hurting me." And he threw me down on the floor.
That's the beginning of a conversation.
Yes. Number 2, when did you stop protesting and start making conversation?
Well, when he had conversation with the cops every 3 minutes. So then, at intervals, I went ahead and spoke to him, and I gradually got him to listen to me.
I read about you in the paper, and it was a wonderful story.
Lynn Swan.
Okay, number 1, the motherly advice that you gave to him was what?
Read, 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 and learn a trade.
Number 2, do you have children of your own?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, do you have children of your own?
Yes, I do.
Ever have a bad child, a real bad problem that you had to deal with your children?
No, I thank God. My children were all good. That's why this was a terrible experience.
Yeah. Number 2, what was your biggest fear going through your mind?
My biggest fear that he was going to use a gun on me.
Okay.
Cindy Adams.
Number 3, there is a symptom called the Stockholm Syndrome, where the person who is held hostage bonds with his captor. Did you find that you were bonding?
Yes, I had great apathy for him. I had great concern. He looked tired, and he looked shaky, but he still wanted me to get into bed, and he was finding apathy with me.
I see.
Because he said he was thirsty, he was hungry. So I told him to go to the refrigerator and help yourself.
Number 2.
We've got to leave it there. I'm sorry.
Sorry about
30
that.
seconds. Time's
Yes,
up.
well,
Ron.
all right.
Number 1, how did he get into your apartment?
He climbed up on the terrace. I'm on the 5th floor, and he tried all the windows as he went, and none of the windows were open, but my window was unlocked.
Number 2, how did he get into your apartment?
He climbed in through a window next to the terrace.
Next to the terrace. Number 3, when you said to help yourself and you were talking to him, did the police know that he was in your apartment?
He knew that, yes, because he had been looting or trying to burglarize another apartment on the 4th floor, and they had alerted the police.
When you
finally,
number 2, when you finally called, did he, when you finally talked him into surrendering, did he call the police or did you?
The police were there already.
They were there already.
Time's up, panel. Time to vote for either number 1, number 2, or number 3. Our team of challengers will receive $500 for each incorrect vote with a guarantee of $1,000. And if the panel is fooled completely, the team will receive $3,000. Panel, are you ready to cast your ballots? If you are, Betty, we'll begin with you.
Well, number 3 could talk me out of almost anything with that sweet smile. And number 2, I think is perfectly capable of doing this. I think I'm getting a little emotionally carried away because anybody who recommends reading to somebody has to get my vote.
No, the public service vote from Betty. And Lynn.
Well, if I'm in that situation and someone says, read a book and learn a trade, I'm going to say, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to read a book and learn the trade. So I just don't buy that one. Number 2, just seems very sedate and quiet, and I just don't see her taking charge of the situation. But number 3, she nods her head with that certainty that, you know, I'm a mother, I've been there, just listen to me, kid, and I'll get you through this. So I voted for number 3.
Okay. Cindy Adams.
Well, I haven't been this sure of anything since my husband asked me if I wanted a mink coat. I mean, I am absolutely positive of this one. Numbers 1 and 2 both told the same variation of the story about the window and the terrace, like they were prepped as the imposter. Number 3 could have filled in details for the next 4 hours. So it was number 3. It is number 3.
Okay, that's your opinion. And Ron?
I think number 3 has a teaching background in her life somewhere. And I'm sure number 1, if we'd have given her a little more opportunity to talk, would have fooled me too. But number 2, I would take a bowl of chicken soup from that woman anytime, anytime.
Okay, well, let's look at the votes. As you can see, 1 vote for number 1, 1 vote for number 2, and 2 votes for number 3. But it's now time to find out who the real gutsy grandmother is. Will the real Ruth Walco please stand up? Ah! You got it, Ron. You got it. Cindy loses her mink coat. Now, Ruth, can I ask you a question? What was it that you made for the burglar? You made him lunch?
No, he asked me if he could eat, and he took his own lunch.
What did he eat?
He first took a drink. Then he took 2 bananas, nectarines and plums. Then he made himself a sandwich about this high. He said, I won't get that in jail.
He was right about that. Let's find out who the other imposters are. Number 1, congratulations. Great job. 1 vote. What's your real name?
I'm Doris Bronte. I'm a widow with 4 wonderful children and 2 grandchildren, and I used to work for the Board of Education.
You're a great imposter.
You got your point across.
That's right. Number 3?
My name is Kay Harrison. I'm a housewife. I have 10 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, and I've been married for 53 years.
Congratulations. You vote $500 a vote. Your team receives $1,500. And thank you for being with us today on To Tell the Truth. Thank you very much. We'll be back with a mystery guest right after this. We're back. Let's meet our next team of challengers.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Tony Harris.
Number 2.
My name is Tony Harris.
Number 3.
My name is Tony Harris.
Place is full of foreigners. It's up to you, panel, to locate the real Tony Harris. And here is Tony's story. Please read along with me. I, Tony Harris, serve as secretary to the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. For the past 60 years, the legendary sleuth has employed a secretary to answer his voluminous mail. Each week, I respond to almost 100 letters that arrive at his London address, 221B Baker Street. The letters request Holmes' services or ask questions about his personal life, such as where he and Dr. Watson first met and what song he liked to play on the violin. He also receives birthday and Christmas cards and even an occasional gift. By the way, Mr. Holmes has retired to Sussex, where he busies himself with his new avocation, beekeeping. As to the whereabouts of his arch-enemy, Professor Moriarty, I'm not talking. Signed, Tony Harries. Welcome, Sleuth, Secretarial, and we'll start the questioning with Ron Mazer.
Number one, who writes to Sherlock Holmes?
Oh, there's actually 499 societies, Sherlock Holmes societies, so we get lots of letters from them.
And number two, what kind of requests do they make for help?
All sorts. They want him to solve cases, to actually visit them, various things.
Number three, is there a 221B Baker Street?
There certainly is.
And is that where you get the mail?
That's where we get the mail.
Number one, you live in London?
No, sir, I live in Brighton.
Number two, what was Dr. Watson's field of medicine?
I don't know.
Number three.
Got to move along to Cindy Adams.
Number three, do people believe that he's a real person, Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, they certainly do.
Number two, do you get letters in Japanese and Hindustani?
I do indeed.
And what do they ask over there?
They ask the same things as the rest of the world.
Number one, does anyone ask about his sex life? How did he celebrate when he got the criminal?
Well, he would, you know, he did have several habits, playing the violin being one of them.
That's what he did when he was...
Oh, he enjoyed it.
Let's see. Number two, what do you get paid for writing these letters?
Quite a decent amount of money. He's a good boss. He doesn't turn up much, but he pays well.
No.
Lynn Swan.
Number one, who actually does live at 221B Baker Street?
Well, it's actually the head office now of the Abbey National Bank.
Number two, are they serious about the request for Sherlock Holmes to solve crimes?
Quite a few are.
Okay. Number three, what's the most unusual request you've had from a fan?
We had a letter from someone asking how Sherlock would be able to solve the Contra mystery.
Number one, how would Sherlock Holmes deal with today's crimes?
Well, he would apply his theory of deduction, which he quite was famous for.
He's currently working on the SNL crisis. Betty.
How long have you been secretary to Sherlock Holmes?
I've been there for about 18 months now.
Number two, how long have you worked for it?
Yeah.
A year. And number one?
3 years.
3 years. And among the violin playing being one of them, he was also suspected of having somewhat of a dope problem. Do you get mail from the people who are on substances, for example?
There's a few letters we receive like that, but basically they're not criticizing, they're trying to reaffirm their own habits.
So if it's okay for Sherlock, it's okay for us. Oh, my golly goodness. Well, time is up, panel. Time to use your deductive reasoning. And vote for either number one, number two, or number three. Our team of challengers will receive $500 for each incorrect vote, with a guarantee of $1,000. And if the panel is fooled completely, the team will receive $3,000. Panel, are you ready to cast your ballots? If you are, we'll begin with you, Ron.
I eliminated number two quickly because of Dr. Watson. And number three, I wasn't too sure of. But number one knew that 221 Baker Street did exist and that there was something else there besides Mr. Holmes' home.
Okay.
That was just a little fiddling around on that one.
Cindy.
Come on.
Well, number three is such a glamorous-looking lady. She'd have more of an outdoor job, a more alive boss to work with, I would imagine. Number two does not, for some reason, seem to me to be the one. And once before I lost on a Japanese because he looked too Japanese. You are so English that it seems to me it has to be you, number one.
Okay, reversing your theory. Lynn
Yes.
Swan.
Yes, hand in hand, and we go sailing down this, go running down this path here. I didn't vote for number three, and I didn't vote for number two because he didn't know what kind of doctor Dr. Watson was. And since number one answered my question to my satisfaction, I deduced, for no other reason than I liked it, it was number one.
Okay, Betty, is it a clean sweep?
And number two pronounced the name a little bit differently. Harries, he just lingered on it a little bit, which I thought might have meant that it was his, and the others learned Harries. But then I lost him. I somehow thought that maybe the fact that he was a fellow might make us not vote for. But I can't go against it. If you're not number one, you're the best liar on 2 feet.
All righty. Whoa, could have a clean sweep. All the bets are on one horse. 4 votes for number one. Look at this. And let's find out who the real Sherlockian secretary is. Will the real Tony Harries please stand up?
How could you not know what kind of doctor Watson was?
The Brit strike back.
Yes, the Brit fights back.
Strike back.
Okay.
Wonderful. Oh, there's something unfair about it.
Yes. No, they stumped the panel. Quickly, let me ask you, Tony, what's the hardest question you've ever had written to you about Sherlock?
I did have a question from an Indian gentleman who wanted his advice on taking cocaine because he was going to take cocaine.
What did you say?
I advised him against it strongly.
Why write to Sherlock?
I don't know, perhaps he wanted some.
Okay. All righty. What about medicine? Oh, what was the medicine that Dr. Watson practiced?
General prostitution.
Still don't know.
I don't know.
Still a GP. Well, let's find out who our imposters really are. Number one, 4 votes. Congratulations. I don't think this has ever happened before. What's your real name? What do you do?
My name is Susan DeMar, and I'm a VIP hostess for British Airways in Los Angeles.
And number 3, your real name and occupation?
My name is Annie Shaw, and I'm an astrologer and psychic counselor.
Oh, well, there you go. So you've stumped the panel. $3,000 is what your team will receive. And thank you for being with us today on To Tell the Truth. And we will be back to play one-on-one with someone from our studio audience right after this. Welcome back to Tell the Truth. Now it's time to play one-on-one with someone from our studio audience. Burton, who do you have for us today?
Well, Gordon, today, please meet Suzanne Mooney of Boston, Massachusetts.
Hello, Suzanne.
Hi.
Here's your chance to play one-on-one, Suzanne. I want you to meet a lady with 2 stories to tell. Phyllis Negard. Welcome, Phyllis. Now, Suzanne, Phyllis is going to tell you 2 stories, only one of which is the truth. If you can spot the true story, you'll win $500. Phyllis, what's your first story?
This year, my blueberry coffee cake won me the $35,000 in the Pillsbury Bake-Off.
Okay, now that may or may not be the truth, Suzanne. Listen to Phyllis's second story.
I'm a world champion horseshoe pitcher. I recently played horseshoe at the White House.
Okay, now, the panel is going to help you, Suzanne, to try and win that $500. They'll ask one question about each of those stories. Let's start with story number 1, the Bake-Off and Betty.
How many cakes did you beat out to win your $35,000?
Well, there's 10 finalists in the contest.
Lynn.
How many blueberries do you use to make one coffee cake?
1 cup.
Cindy.
How fattening is your $35,000 cake?
280 calories per slice.
Ooh, Ron.
If you almost use the Pillsbury product, the mix, what would make yours different than the other 9 finalists?
The only Pillsbury product that I did use was the flour.
Okay, now, Suzanne, you've heard Phyllis's first story. Now let's ask questions on the second. Story number 2, horseshoe. Betty.
How close do you have to get to the stake to score?
For points, 6 inches, within 6 inches.
Lynn.
From the point that you release the horseshoe to the time it hits the ground, how many rotations does it make?
3/4.
Barbara Bush told me that her husband played in the recent game. Can you tell me what sort of a horseshoe pitcher he is?
Actually, what I observed when I was at the White House, I thought he pitched real well, actually, for not being a professional.
Ron?
Do you hold your horseshoe at the tip or at the back?
At the side.
Oh, Ron, a man who knows how to handle his horseshoes. Okay,
Yeah.
Suzanne, you've heard the cross-examination. Did Phyllis, in your opinion, win the Pillsbury Bake-Off, or is she a champion horseshoe pitcher?
She seems to me to work better in the kitchen. I would say she's the Pillsbury blueberry
Well,
baker.
if you're right, you win $500. Phyllis, what's your true story?
To tell the truth, I am a horseshoe pitcher.
I'm sorry, Suzanne, you're wrong, but we do have a nice gift for you. Thanks for playing one-on-one with us today. And Phyllis, for stumping her, you will receive $1,000. And will you come right back and play a little bit more of horseshoes with us?
Sure, be glad to.
We'll have a demonstration of championship horseshoe throwing right after this. Don't go away. We're back with Phyllis Nygaard, horseshoe champion. Phyllis, show us your stuff. Here we are. First time now. Oh, it's a ringer. Okay. Oh, yes. Fantastic. Okay. All righty, Phyllis. Here's your match. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.
It's the high-stakes room you haven't seen. Until now, the price of admission, $100,000 of your own money. This game is the real deal. High Stakes Poker premieres Monday, January 16th at 9.
GSA.